And we're back, and as promised, we have live in our studio City Councilman Randy Christian. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning.
Morning, Councilman.
Good morning. We're thoroughly disinfected now.
Yes, you have come in your mask and your gloves, and you're taking this very seriously, obviously.
Well, we all should. We all
to.
should.
Yes, we should.
And we're pretty close to being 6 feet apart.
Yeah, I was going to say I hold my arm out. We're pretty far distance.
We have our wipes and and I've got my liquid disinfectant in my pocket. Listen, I wanted to talk to you. I mean, of course, last night was the city council meeting, and there's a lot to talk about with that. But I wanted to talk to you because you and I come out of the same business. We've both been in the advertising agency business, and we work with business, and we probably have a different perspective than most other people who haven't. And I wanted to for you to comment, because I don't see how this works. I'm kind of with Trump. I don't see how you close this country down to business for a period of months and then have it somehow magically restart. What are your thoughts on this?
First of all, I think, as we mentioned off mic, we're in unprecedented times. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be a council member and having to deal with this situation that happened within such a short window. You think like it was what's been 2.5 weeks that really all of this started happening, and it seems like 2 years as far as the stress levels and the things that have taken place. And I'm going to say right now, I'm very glad. A lot of people may not agree with him, but I'm very glad that we have Mayor Pope in this position, because he also has had out of business too, and he was one of my clients when I had the ad agency. But to answer your question, Dave, is that I've dealt with and had the privilege to work with businesses, both small startups, small, medium, and some very, very big businesses that was a part of our community. I think probably the biggest one is Wells Fargo. A lot of people don't remember that Wells Fargo entered the Texas market by way of buying First National Bank on downtown Broadway, and for a number of years, their Texas headquarters was on Broadway. And then as they expanded, we had a chance to expand. So from a corporate perspective, that was probably my largest business that I had to deal with. There are no good answers.
That was my thought.
There really is no good
Trump
answer.
is in a no-win situation.
Well, but I think
Either
that I'm also
he opens business back up and he kills people,
or
he doesn't open business and he kills business.
But I'm also glad that Trump's in position, because we need a business mind, a businessman, regardless of what your politics are. He's been there, done that. He's had major success. He's had major failures. So his background is what we need right now. On a local level, we made some decisions, some hard decisions, and I was telling y'all just a minute ago that, it didn't take us very long to do that vote when we got to the dais and we had our council meeting. But let me assure you that both in our work session and our executive session, there was great debate on what we should or what we shouldn't do. We made a few minor changes to the most recent executive or emergency declaration is, but we all knew that there was going to be people that would be hurt by this.
Well, let me just tell you that we probably had a record number, or near a record number, of texts yesterday when we were talking about this issue, and there's a lot of the KFYO audience not happy with the position that the mayor took in closing down businesses.
But we had
non-essential businesses.
Yeah, but I'll guarantee you, we have had the same number, and I've had some, not as many as the mayor, but have the totally diametrically opposite perspective that we haven't done enough. That we should be sheltering in place right now.
And that's the situation we're in.
And I'll guarantee you, it probably as many on that side of the equation as you're getting from your KFYO listeners, and we're getting that at City Hall amongst the. Of course, the mayor's taking he's the mayor, but all other council members are probably getting just as many pros and cons on this as getting our fair share of those pros and cons too.
Yeah.
So we hope that this can end and we don't have to do something different and more drastic after that April 3rd third or second date.
Yeah, April 3rd is
April 3rd date at midnight or whenever it is. But folks, there's a possibility we might have to do something even more drastic. That's the times we're living in. Especially when we had another death. So there was a death in Midland, Odessa too.
Well, on the front page of the paper today.
So we've got 2 in the West Texas area.
One in Amarillo. And
the one in Midland, Odessa, from what I read, was a 60-year-old man, but I did not know whether he had any pre-existing conditions. All I saw there was 60-year-old.
Today's AJ is reporting that the city of Lubbock yesterday announced a total of 4 additional confirmed coronavirus cases. 2 cases were reported Tuesday morning, and 2 more were reported Tuesday afternoon. The total number of cases in Lubbock County is 14 as of Tuesday evening.
And that doesn't count area. I would think area is probably closer to 20 or so. If I haven't seen that most recent, if you're taking in the other counties. But you think about how a week ago, Monday, we had 0 when we had our first vote. Because I voted, I voted the question that because we had 0, and that was the 200. And there wasn't any closing of businesses. So we've had, all of a sudden, within our area, within a matter of a week, we've had probably ticking up to 20 or 20 plus in the region. Most of those were travel related, but if you look at the list, that there are some that now have contracted it because they knew somebody or they were around somebody that had one, associated kind of diseases. Those are the ones that bother me the most, because if you go back and look at those, and we reviewed some of those, most of those were caused by total irresponsibility. Of people not taking it serious, not quarantining themselves, being tested positive, and then going out in public.
Right.
How do we do those?
Right, like the Texas Tech
student.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, when President Skuvanek was talking about that, I mean, so long ago now, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
He was visibly angry about that.
Well, he should be.
I mean, because the university went to great expense to fly those students back, and then, of course, to have the car service, to set up the separate apartment for the quarantine period, and then I'm assuming that it wasn't just the student that got affected, but I think that student may have infected a family member too.
The family they went back home. I mean,
oh, geez.
The first thing I thought about is when I heard that the first thing that I thought of when I heard about this just blatant disregard and lying is strive for honor.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Strive for honor.
Well, that student certainly didn't do that.
Well, listen, I do want to say this, something we failed to mention so far. There's some breaking news this morning many of you may not have heard that Prince Charles has tested positive for this. The count is in U.S. cases, we're up at 55,000. Now, these are round numbers. 55,000. We've added 332 in the last 24 hours. We have total deaths so far of 802, and in the last 24 hours, just 19. So that's the count that we keep up with every day, and we watch that thing grow, and it is frightening to look at. Our Surgeon General has said the worst is yet to come.
Our business community is suffering because of the stupidity of individuals.
Now, let's take a break at 7:16 a.m., and we'll be back with City Councilman Randy Christian with a lot more to talk about this morning. And we are back here on KFYO Mornings with Matt and Dave. We have Matt and Rob this morning, and live in the studio, City Councilman Randy Christian. I was just looking over some of the text messages this morning, and a theme that seems it shows people's fear, I think. And we were talking off mic about survivalists have revived, Randy, and gun stores selling.
It's their dream come true.
Yeah, so gun stores selling out of ammo and guns. And people, are concerned about this in very bleak ways.
I try not to do that.
Yeah, I try not to also.
As somebody that's battling cancer for the third time, you got to be hopeful all the time. And I truly believe that we will come out of this. It may take a little longer than what some folks may think. I'm not a physician. I think that we can certainly get a handle on the corona, but I think it's going to take a while for us to get our economy back to where it was, two and a half weeks ago.
Yeah, I do too.
Right.
Where we were having record-setting, a stock market, and all of a sudden it's a third or 30% on average, probably down. Would that be what you guys see there too? But you had a couple other questions regarding city council last night. That maybe we cover those and we can get back to this too, because there was two or three issues that came up that you mentioned.
Well, right, and then. And if I remember right, you said you guys had tabled this. One item that was on the agenda was to discuss the convention center hotel and execute the contract for the development agreement. Did that happen last night?
No, it did not.
Okay, so
I personally felt like it was kind of unseemly for us to even be talking about that right now. Where it goes in the future, I'm not even worried about that right now. That's not a way on. It's kind of like you said, the judge yesterday in the event center. That's way down on my priority list right now.
right. Let's see here. There was 2 items at the end of the agenda discussing bonds, separate sets of bonds. Did y'all end up discussing those last
Well,
night?
we just reviewed some of those. Kind of looked at did some thinking about what sales tax revenues may or may not be, kind of a historical look at that. No, we did decide to go ahead and those bonds that are already out, they're already in place for a couple of street projects. That money is basically in the bank, so to speak, but we're not taking any, we're kind of tabling and stepping back. But some of those things that were very basically approved and well down the road, and as I said, money in the bank, we're moving those forward.
About how much?
Well,
do you
there
think
was
that
only
is?
2 that I remember. There was that we talked about specifically. There was the Indiana project and the Upland project. There was some bond reviews, and we're going to go back and look at those again. But I just think it was basically a report on where we are right now on some of those issues regarding bonds, and then I will probably get another sales tax report, projections, if you will, in future council meetings. But fortunately, we have had incredible sales tax revenues over the last couple of years, so we do have some money in the bank, so to speak, when it comes to that.
So of course, the Citizens Tower opening has been delayed, pushed back a number of times. Where is that right now?
Well, it's well on the way to being finished, and once again, though, that money has already been allocated. When we'll move in, there's some discussion about we will move in, but we're working right now to have the next few council meetings virtual meetings, like we should.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things we wanted to do is make sure that we still, if we do the virtual town halls, that people could still voice their opinion. We have citizens' comments, and those are some technology issues, technical issues to set that up. But I believe that will be in place for our next meeting, so that we won't be meeting in person. But I agreed with the mayor that this one was already in place yesterday's, and I think we needed together, but we were all spaced out further apart. I wore my mask and gloves the entire time. I told my sweet wife that I would do that, so Councilman Griffin kept calling me Dr. Christian all the time. So, and I just, as we all know, that especially men, if somebody's approaching you with rubber gloves, you kind of get antsy. Yeah.
Right.
But it was a good congenial, and we're working all together, working together on this.
Okay, Randy, we're up against the clock here. Let's take a quick break. We are KFYO Mornings with Matt and Rob this morning, and we're broadcasting from the Thacker Jewelry Studios. You can view loose diamonds and custom designs and more at thackerjewelry.com. Back with more after this break with Lubbock City Councilman Randy Christian. And we're back at 95.1 FM, 790 AM. This is KFYO Mornings. Dave King and Rob Snyder filling in for Matt this morning. Live in the studio is Randy Christian, Lubbock City Council person.
Yep, 43 degrees in Lubbock right now. We're going to get up into the 80s this afternoon. And Councilman Christian, we were going through some of the actions that the council undertook last night. Of course, y'all had tabled the discussion on the Convention Center Hotel. But one item that you did take action on was a resolution to move the date of the city election. And why don't we go through that for everybody right now?
Well, after there was some information given to us, I thought that was kind of a no-brainer too, especially when we found out that we would lose a lot of polling places, that they were not going to open their doors to elections, the election, plus polling workers. They were having people that are already saying, not in May. We're not willing to do it, because most of those people are retired. Most of those people would probably fall into that high risk category. And you think about the interaction with people as a polling worker. I don't know whether I'd want to do it either, and I have done that before in the past. So we really didn't have any options based upon those two factors to move it, to vote yes and move it to November. What the fallout is in regards to candidates and school districts that are going to have bond. I think they had some independent school districts are probably going to have some elections, or they were going to have some things in May.
Well, like
Friendship's got a big bond.
But we don't know what it's going to be like in November, do we?
No, I'm going to wave my magic wand, Dave, and everything will be perfect, and we will go back to a splendid civilization as we knew it 3 weeks ago. So November's golden, baby.
As another issue that blindsided me yesterday, Judge Parrish said that we have 30-some-odd thousand tech kids that are not going to be here to take the census, and I was unaware that they were counted in the Lubbock census, and so we're going to lose.
Well, don't quote me on that, but I think they're talking about moving that date also. There's some census numbers you probably know better than
the other thing too, if I remember correctly, on the census is some of those students still have their permanent address with their parents. So as far as the census is concerned, they would still be counted at their permanent address. It's the students that have completely moved their permanent address to Lubbock that would, potentially then count for City of Lubbock or Lubbock County.
I've always had a question about that.
Because, that's from what I remember in my time at Tech, was that for the 2000 census, I was still a student at the time there, so I was counted at home, if I remember correctly, on that rather than counted here. But I know the rules on that change over time and everything.
There could be some clarification on it, because I don't know myself. But I do think that there was some news yesterday about something regarding some postponing or moving some census dates as well. So we might be able to. I know your KFYO out there will probably jump on the internet and find out for us.
Right. Of course, the easiest thing is if you already have the census form that's mailed to you, just fill it out, send it back, and then you're good to go. It's obviously for those. For lack of a better term, the transient type students out there that are, living here 6 to 9 months out of the year and then going somewhere else for the summer.
Sure. Well, I was thinking in regard to what the judge said, that date zero or whatever he called it, whether there's been some adjustments on that date. That's really what I was regarding, is that we might get some clarification on whether that's still, a ground zero date for what he was talking about yesterday. There was something in the news, and that's as much as I know.
So one texter asking a city question about street maintenance and potholes. I guess as far as the regular machinations of the city and everything else,
yeah.
Is Public Works still going, or the street department going?
Of course. There'll be some things as far as operational that we'll have to look at when we start putting together next year's budget. But we've signed off on this year's budget, and there's funds in the bank, if you will. But we'll probably have to make some serious decisions. But as far as potholes, that will move forward. We haven't shut down the town.
Have you given any estimation at all to what this is costing the city in tax revenue, this shutdown?
All we can do is some projections right now, and I don't have those estimates, but our tax revenues will definitely be down. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out, but that will come when we start working on next year's budget. So for me to conjecture that, I don't really particularly care to do that. I'd rather wait till we start the budgetary process and we know factual numbers and even some projections going into 2021 than for me to sit here and say what kind of it's going to have an impact. Let's put it that way.
Is there anything in the federal budget as far as help for city budgets?
I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at that stimulus package other than we can do everything we can in Lubbock, Texas, to try to safeguard our city, both present and future. But there's so many outside forces that will ultimately have an impact on how we can move forward. It's like that, the Serenity Prayer. You can only do what you can do, and then you hope that somebody else takes care of their business. But I think that they passed. Did they vote? Have they voted yet on the package as of when we recessed ended the councilman meeting last night? I kept looking at it, and I knew that they hadn't done anything yet. But I don't know what's the latest on that.
They've got when I was watching Fox Business this morning. I mean, they've got a meet today in the House. And one analyst didn't think it was going to get fully passed until possibly tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, another potential delay of at least 24 hours on that package.
Sure.
7:42 a.m. KFYO Mornings in progress. Back with more in a moment. And we are back at 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. America's in for a change, Councilman.
Okay.
Don't you think? We have someone that wants to know they have a business and they want to know if the city is going to reimburse them because the city shut them down.
No.
I'm guessing not.
No.
I mean, in all
I understand the question, and I understand it's a perfectly valid question, but I don't think that we can't do that.
No.
There's no.
I was going to say for that texture, in all seriousness, I think the Small Business Administration with the federal government is coming to the table with some potential loan packages. If I remember correctly, I think there was some information put out about a first round of potential loan packages.
Yeah, in short, that help's going to come from the feds.
I think there's probably going to be some local help too. And I have nothing to base that on, but I think that where our financial and our banking community can help people, they're going to help them.
Sure. Well, we're all in this together.
We are. We're all in this together, and for us to start getting, thinking about, I think we need about we and us instead of I and me right now, or we'll just keep. We're not going to get anywhere on any of this. I'm just really I'm impressed with the businesses that have figured out how to retool, to think about how they're going to stay open. Our restaurateurs are probably leading the pack, but I think there's some other retail businesses that are already thinking about. I've noticed you're not Thacker, but Robert Lance Jewelers is doing some very cool things, and I think this shows really what America and Americans, and especially in West Texans, because we are, that we look to the positive and try to figure out how to make things work. And you look at historically, we've had significant events within our country's history and our world's history that we figure out how to get by in the worst times. And I think sometimes our fierce independence, both on a national level and on a regional level, fierce independence is sometimes our best friends and our worst friends.
One texter responding saying loans have to be repaid, profits are earned by working, stop the insanity. So that's one person's thought on that.
I wish I could stop the insanity of coronavirus.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think from what our texters have said over the past few days, and just some of the other people that have called in as well, is that kind of like what we had ended up discussing in one of the previous breaks, is that not just the business owners, but everybody out there in general, we've got to see a light at the end of the tunnel. We've got to see, okay, if X, Y, and Z are going to be done, then we can get through this. And we can get back to as much normal as possible. I think it's the uncertainty right now that that is causing the angst amongst, especially amongst the business community, of, is this community imposing a disaster declaration? Is this community, of course, with Lubbock, of course, shutting down non-essential businesses. Some communities, of course, like Dallas and Waco, have gone a step further with the sheltering in place. And then you have Governor Abbott, who has said, I don't think we're going to need a statewide shelter in place. So all of a sudden you're getting some mixed messages as well from the different government entities of what actually needs to be done to stop the spread of the coronavirus and to get everything basically taken care of.
Yeah. I appreciate the Governor Abbott's perspective right now, especially because how many counties, overwhelmingly, the counties in the state of Texas don't even have any. They have zero. That you get out into far west Texas. So how do you declare a statewide shelter in place in a state as big as Texas and as diverse as Texas, as opposed Dallas. And I was really kind of surprised Waco. I didn't hear the details of what pushed them over the edge, if you will, to go to shelter-in-place Waco, because I just didn't have them unless their location on I-35 is causing some potential problems as far as people traveling through. That's the only thing I thought of. But I do think that I like Abbott's perspective and his judgment to let it be on a kind of at least maybe a county by county basis, because I think that's basically what we do in Lubbock as we look at the county, the city and the county is one, and especially in situations like this.
Well, I think you're exactly spot on this. It's people's lives are just in turmoil right now, and then we have the city and the national government comes in and said that you must shelter in place or close your business or whatever, and it's just more than some people can take. They feel like their lives are totally out of control, and that's what so many people.
Well,
are
I would
with
encourage
right
people to sit down, and somebody that, in my personal situation with health, is that pray a lot, try to do those things to relieve stress. Because I think it could get the forces that are in place as far as we're going to see an uptick in positives. There's no question about that. That's pretty simple math. The more tests you do, the more positive you're going to do, but the more negatives you're going to get too. So if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that's part of there's a little blinking light right there that says if you look at the number of tests we do and then you look at the number of positives that we have, to me that's a pretty bright little light. What we're doing as far as UMC and the other testing facilities, they're talking about maybe pushing it out and doing some testing beyond just the parking lots of UMC where people could. So, for people to sit here and say, oh my gosh, we're having all these positives, we're going to have a lot more positives. There's no question about it. But what do those positives, what does that individual do that tests positives, what do they do to curtail the spread of the coronavirus? They don't go to Rosa's Cafe.
Yeah.
They don't go to Walmart. That's back when I said that I believe that our fierce, strong West Texas independence that we dearly love is a blessing and a curse right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tell me what to do. Yes, we've got to tell you what to do because apparently you're not going to do it on your own.
It's 7:53, and KFYO Mornings will be back in just a moment, and we'll close out our visit with Councilman Christian. And we're back. Dave and Rob this morning on KFYO Mornings, and Councilman Randy Christian with us.
Yeah, this segment right quick of the KFYO Morning Show brought to you by Ace of Texas. Go online, aceoftexas.com, or give Gary Adrian a call at 777-9973. Gary Adrian can help you out on your property taxes.
Yeah, that's one of those deals. There's very few deals, Rob, that's heads I win, tails I win. This is one of those deals.
That's right.
Ace of Texas, if you're concerned that your property taxes are too high, call him. If he can save you some money, he will, and will take a small fee. If he can't, It costs you nothing. How
Can't-
about a deal like that?
Can't beat that.
Okay. I believe you. Why not? We're probably getting close to the last segment. I wanted to read something I prepared that I was going to read last night during council meeting, but I thought I'm going to save this for your listeners because it'll probably probably stimulate some more conversation. As I said, I'd be willing to stay over. Since,
Oh yeah, we can
since
talk after the
David's
news.
leaving, but. All right, it won't take long, but I better do it.
We've got a minute. Go ahead.
Oh no, it'll take longer than that.
Talking long. Okay.
Yeah. It'll take
So
longer.
what we'll do then? Councilman Christian will stay with us past the news break. He'll read that on the air when we get back at 8:07 and go from there.
Very good, thank you.
Very good.
All righty. So,
45 degrees this morning and a high of 87. It's going to be a big one. I haven't heard about winds, if we're going to have wind today or not.
I think pretty mild for the most part.
Well, let's hope so.
All right, Dave. We'll see you tomorrow. Dave and Matt out for the rest of this morning. I'm Rob Snyder, and along with Lubbock City Councilman Randy Christian. And what we're going to do here is have two more segments with Councilman Christian at 8:30 before Chad Hasty comes on at 8:30. And we've got plenty of texts to roll through. We'll get through those. But Councilman Christian has something that he wanted to read to the audience right now, so we'll get to that right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I wrote this and was going to present this and read this at council meeting, but I thought I'm coming to you guys today. I think a bigger audience and probably spur some additional text messages. So this is a prepared statement or reading, if you will. I'd like to offer my personal perspective regarding the coronavirus issue that some folks may agree with and many may not. When we met with our first council meeting and we approved the emergency declaration, I stated then that I consider myself the poster child for the high at-risk group who might contract coronavirus. I'm the right age. I'm battling cancer. My wife and I fly to MD Anderson every 3 weeks to receive treatments. We navigate large airports, use their restrooms and restaurants, ride Uber, stay in hotels, and all the time wearing masks and practicing social distancing amongst a lot of sick people, as well as those we hope that are not. I miss going to church, hugging and high-fiving my family and friends, and the list goes on and on. Most of us gladly sacrifice our life's habits and ways so that we and our friends and neighbors and fellow Lubbockians, and in the world for that matter, can hopefully put an end to the Corona-19 nightmare. But for some, sacrifice doesn't seem to be a part of their vocabulary or their personal moral code. For me, that spells a total lack of understanding of what it means to be a West Texan. It is painfully obvious when we learn the actions of the Texas Tech student who tested positive and those that enabled that student to put many citizens at potential risk for illness. A Red Raider? The thought makes me see red. The actions of this young person did little to contradict the feelings some people have of their generation. Unfortunately, this person has done a monumental disservice to thousands of great young Red Raiders. But it's not just the actions of this person that has caused me to see red. Many of our citizens of all ages have and continue to engage what I call RED, or red actions. R, reckless behavior by not washing hands, not covering your cough or sneeze, not practicing social distancing, not staying home when you feel sick, not following the recommendations of our healthcare professionals, and not taking seriously the consequences of their reckless behavior. E, sense of entitlement. No, you do not have the right to do whatever you want, wherever you want during this time of crisis. For those who want to argue the constitutionality of the emergency declaration, don't waste your time or your precious breath talking to me. Yes, you do have the right to smoke, drink, or eat yourself to death, but you don't have the right to endanger the lives of others by going places you shouldn't when you know you're a positive carrier of the virus or a disease like COVID-19, or have come in contact with somebody who is a carrier. Wise leaders that came long before me knew that special provisions, powers were vitally important in order to protect some selfish citizens from themselves. Their entitlement temperament could kill me or others, and my cancer is already trying to do that, and it doesn't need any help. The letter D, disregard of others. How much damn toilet paper do you need? Do you really qualify for the senior compromised health hours that many stores have graciously put into place? Has our greed overtaken our need for all that stuff you've hoarded in your garage like toilet paper? Has unbridled fear replaced our beloved West Texas teachings of us, we, they, and replaced it with I, me, my? I hope not. In closing, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my mom and dad, John R., Johnny, and Ree, which is short for Marine Christian, members of the greatest generation. They endured and lived through the stock market crash of 1929, followed by the Great Depression that lasted 10 years. Then came the Dust Bowl from 1930 to 36. It tossed more than 2 million people into homelessness. My hometown, my birthplace, Dalhart, Texas, was the epicenter of the Dust Bowl. World War II came then, 1939 to 45. 418,500 American military and civilians lost their lives. Worldwide estimates are more than 6 million died. Do the math. From 1929 to 45, 16 years. 16 years of multiple hardship, uncertainty, death, disease, and a shortage of everything, including toilet paper, I suspect. When all that was finally behind them, I never heard Ree or Johnny gripe, bitch, or complain about the individual and collective struggles they endured. But instead they went to work, doing their part to rebuild America and perpetuating the freedoms we enjoy and love today. We're all children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of the Rees and Johnnies of our country. Pulling together, my mom and dad, along with millions of other Americans, conquered the storms of their generation. Together we will conquer our storm too. God bless Lubbock. God bless West Texas. God bless America. Let's get to work together.
The words of Lubbock City Councilman Randy Christian. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and get our break out of the way right now. We'll take your calls at 770-5790 or your texts for the rest of this half hour at 806-680-2790, 806-680-2790. We've got some texts from 432 and 773 and a bunch of others that we'll get through as well after this break. I'm Rob Snyder filling in for Dave King and Matt Martin. This is KFYO Mornings on News Talk 95.1, 790 KFYO. One more segment with Lubbock City Councilman Randy Christian. I'm Rob Snyder filling in for Dave King and Matt Martin. One texter telling us, we are in this position because of politicians and media. Well, we still thank you for listening, even if that is your thought process this morning. We had a serious text. Let's see here from 773. Let me find that one, Councilman, right quick. Let's see. Well, I'll paraphrase it because we've had so many roll in this morning. Here we go. This texter asking on the budget. So when does the city start cutting non-essential spending, and will the council consider budget amendments for the rest of this budget cycle concerning city spending? When you're this was referring to what you had mentioned last half hour about a possible dip in sales tax revenue for the city later on this year.
I think that's very possible, but we have to take that one step at a time. I mean, we're not going to start. We'll assess, in my opinion, we'll probably assess either every council meeting or every other council meeting where we are and what we have to do. I think it's a very fluid process right now, but I don't see us having to do anything this budget year. Mm-hmm. We probably will have, more than likely, we'll have to look at that very hard as we go, because we start the budget process basically in August. So in relative terms, that's not that far away. So remains to be seen.
Right. Let's see. One texter chiming in with saying 99.9% of the people are following the guidelines that have been put out there. why overblow the fears for all of the citizens rather than strategically focus on protecting those most at risk and let the rest of us follow the rules and help support everyone else?
Would you? So we don't. That this person really isn't concerned about the high risk people.
That's what they're saying. In their opinion, 99% of the people are following the guidelines that have been put out there right now.
Probably so, but it's always the 1 or 2% that make it difficult for all of us, especially those folks that have been tested positive and that refuse to obey the rules, if you will, in regards to self-quarantining or making sure that they don't go out in public. What it takes is that's always the case. That's society in general. It's that 1 or 2% that cause the problems that exacerbate situations like coronavirus, that go out and expose themselves to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and then that multiplier starts taking place. I agree with them totally that most of our citizens are doing a great job of doing the right thing. It's those people that do the wrong thing, those are the ones that are in jail, that are in prison, and that cause societal discourse for all of us.
Right. I mean, I hate to keep harping on the tech student, but of course, the tech, we being Lubbock, kind of become the poster child of a person that was supposed to be quarantined, non-quarantining, where they spent time in the airport, then went to Rosa's, and then went directly home, and you bring that up. I mean, in that case, I mean, that person was around how many people?
Who knows? Who knows? But it's just like anything else. It's that small percent of people that makes it difficult for all of us, and it causes officials like myself and others to have to take measures that we would not like to take.
Right. Let's see. The text line's still open right now on the KFYO Morning Show, 806-680-2790, 806-680-2790, or you can call in right quick at 770-5798. Again, I'm Rob Snyder, filling in for Dave King and Matt Martin with Lubbock City Councilman Randy Christian for the rest of the show here as we're rolling through your text messages. By the way, if you swear in a text, I'm not reading it on the air. I just want to tell people that right now.
You can tell me that one off air.
Let's see. Okay.
Probably the same sort of vein going through the
right.
Same sort of information, just worded differently, I would suspect.
Right. One person saying the government doesn't care about the people, just the money. I disagree with that as far as how they're putting it. I think it's more along the lines of government's caring about the people and the health of the economy. Another texter says high risk people just need to stay home. I think we've established that people that are high risk have been taking precautions.
I think most of them are very much limiting. They're probably sheltering in place pretty much already. I went to United Monday morning at 7:00 to see the seniors special hours, and here were probably 100 seniors that are older than I am, and were shoulder to shoulder waiting for the doors to open. I'm going, wait a minute. That's great that they're having these hours, but they need to think about that 6-foot rule and all those other things. And then this one gentleman walked right past me, and he looked terrible health, and he had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. I thought, oh gracious.
So, I don't know if this is part of a city issue or be a state issue with the mayor's disaster declaration on closing non-essential businesses. This texter asks, why are packaged liquor stores still open? I don't know if that falls under the city's disaster declaration or.
I know it's in ours, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure whether that's in the states also. I think it is, but I think it was kind of an overarching part of the declaration, because there's so many different like convenience stores and others that really, and a number of other, like I'm going to call them small box stores, like Big Lots and such. Big Lots doesn't do booze, I don't think, but there's some that are overlapping where they do have milk and bread and some other things, and especially in East Lubbock, there's a number of like Dollar Generals and stuff that are really small grocery stores that still have at least beer and wine. I don't have a good answer for you, but there was some overlapping issues in regards to package stores and what some do or do not carry above and beyond just the alcohol.
This texter asking you, Councilman Christian, how am I supposed to farm if the people that supply my parts and crop inputs are closed?
I don't know why those are closed. Those people that provide parts and other essentials for the farming industry, as well as auto mechanics and stuff like that, I'm really not sure. I don't know why those stores would be closed, to be perfectly honest with you.
Right. Let's see, 806-680-2790, 806-680-2790. The KFYO text line inbox open. You can also give us a call at 770-5790. One texter says, even though I disagree with you, Councilman Christian, I want to know that I'm praying for you. So I
appreciate that very much.
That texter from 7777 this morning. Let's see here. Another message rolling through. So this person asks, well, unfortunately the music's got us here. Too long of a question.
Multi-part, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't help when we're trying to go for brevity on that. Okay.
Maybe we need some brevity right now.
Yeah.
Probably,
I appreciate everybody getting your messages in this morning. Again, Rob Snyder filling in for Dave King and Matt Martin. Councilman Christian, thanks for your time here this morning today as well. Of course, Dave and Matt will be back here tomorrow morning. Coming up at 8:30, Chad Hasty for the Chad Hasty Show. Don't forget Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick at 10:05, and then Chancellor Ted Mitchell at 10:35 this morning on the Chad Hasty Show.